All right, here we go. Welcome in. It is a Wednesday, November the 27th, 2019. And we are getting ready for more college basketball, getting ready for some turkey, too, but then more college basketball after that. So what better way to get you going here heading into Thanksgiving than give you guys another 20 minutes of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show powered by WagerTalk.com. He is Ralph Michaels. I'm Joe Raineri. WagerTalk.com is where you guys go, and some cool stuff happening over at WagerTalk. A little gobble-gobble holiday pricing, too, I believe. $9. We'll be able to get you a place here for the next day here or so, Ralph. So a little Thanksgiving thank you, giving back a little thanks, something along those lines?
Yeah, Thursday through Monday, Joe, a Thanksgiving weekend special. So any package of Wager Talk packages normally $25 or $40. Every package just $9.
Can't go wrong with that, guys. And plenty of college hoops today. Over 50 games slated. Started around 11 a.m. Eastern time. We'll be going right through to about 11:30 tonight, I believe, is the last tip-off. So let's take a look at some of what happened last night. And I guess I heard something about this team, and is it Duke? Is that the name of the team? Some of you Duke, and some about them getting their asses handed to them there, Ralph, in overtime last night. So congratulations, Duke. They are now the third number one seed in the very short season to get bounced here, Ralph. So is it more just that there's not that real dominant college team this year? Is that why we're seeing such turnover this quick?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Duke upset is shocking because it was SF Austin. You're a 28-point favorite, and it's your first home loss against non-conference in I don't know how many years, in 10 years or something. So, you look, and I tweeted out the top upsets so far this year. Duke was a 28-point favorite. Kentucky was a 25-point favorite against Evansville. Loyola Chicago was a 22.5-point favorite against Coppin State. St. Mary's was a 19.5-point favorite to Winthrop. Hofstra got upset against St. Joe's. And the funny thing is, right before that, Hofstra upset UCLA. So they're on the list twice, pulling an upset and getting upset. So, there's been 15 upsets so far this season from dogs of 14.5 or more. And it's going to happen. College basketball is not college football where you have 12 games and, you have the better offense and better defense. You have 5 kids and you shoot a cold night, or someone makes, 10 of 10 from three-pointers. Well, that team can always beat you. So, basketball is so much different than the other sports. But I also agree with what you said. There really is no dominant one. You look and, the futures are wide open. I think there's probably 12 or 14 teams that have a shot to win it. And, while they put futures out on everyone, that's normally the case in a regular season lately, that, you look at really who could win, and there's only a handful of teams that are going to run the table and get to a national championship.
Yeah, there's no Zion, this year. There's no, instant focus. There's no, dream team. You got a lot of bunch of 18-year-olds, Ralph, it seems like, that are trying to gel together. I do think we'll probably see, and we usually say this every year, I think come January, we're going to start to see some of those blue bloods and some other teams really start to hit their stride here.
Yeah, and what changed this year was, Weissman going to Memphis, and, and then the number 2 recruit probably was North Carolina's guard. Cole Anthony was probably the number 2 player. That's the Suns. So, where Duke had the 1, 2, and 3 best players. This year they're spread out. We've seen some good some weirder teams, or not weirder teams, but some of the non-traditionals where, I would say out of the last 5 years, probably 60% of North Carolina.
Right. Yeah.
So, but by them spreading them out, we don't have that powerhouse.
No, and you don't. And we got a bunch of coaching changes this year, too. We got some, different styles, different things going on. So it'll all even out when it is all said and done by the time. I can promise you, it's funny. Michigan State, Duke, and Kentucky, your 3 number ones that got bounced out. We're talking also 3 teams, Ralph, that are probably going to be number 1 or 2 seeds come March, which I think is hilarious. But that's why it's a long college basketball season. And some of those players, some of those young guys last night that really They took it, Ralph. They had some good times, some great performances last night by guys like Jordan Burns at Colgate taking on Wisconsin Green Bay there, 40 points, 4-3 rather. Nathan Knight, William and Mary, Morehead State, 28-12, 3-1. You also had 3 blocks. I'm not even going to try to kid at FIU. They can't even pronounce it down here, Ralph. So that's all you, man. Be my guest. I've seen the guys down here try to pronounce that. They can't do it.
Joe, the funny thing is, I was trying to jump in front of you and start with the first 2 and then pass it over to you. I mean, damn, you're down there. You've heard the kid's name on the news or something. I have no idea.
I've heard it 4 times. I've heard it 4 different ways.
Osagi, I don't know, but look who we played. They played Kaiser, so
right.
Let's put it in perspective. But, still 19 and 18 and 7 blocks. If you're going to have 7 blocks, you know what you've done.
Yep.
And then Anthony Edwards as a kid, he was probably, I think he was the number 3 or 4 recruit in the country. He's one of the other guys that normally would have gone to Duke or Kentucky. He stayed home to go to Georgia. He will be a top 5 NBA pick. So if you haven't watched Georgia and know who Anthony Edwards is, you should. He's a 6'5" guard. And there were some guys that watched him in high school here in Las Vegas. And I remembered hearing that they thought, in his high school tournament, that he could line up in the NBA and score 15 points. He's that good of an offensive threat. So he's a name you're going to be there. And Cassius Winston, the best point guard in the country, could be. Nate Hinton from Houston, 24 points, 15 rebounds, and Remy Martin from Arizona State. They were down early. Princeton was taking it to him in the first half, and he had to play 40 minutes, as you see, and it was needed. 33 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals.
Yeah, we had some, of course, upsets last night as well here, guys. We talked about, obviously Duke was the big one there, laying 28. And yet in overtime, and a questionable foul call there in regulation to even get Duke to overtime. But the shooting continues to be an issue. And, I mean, listen, good for SF Austin there, man. They actually took it to them. They out-rebounded them. They scored, I think they had 22 turnovers, led into a whole lot of points. I mean, they earned that victory. It wasn't as if Duke just handed it away. They went out and got it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, it's a game where SF Austin shot well. And, it's a game they're going to remember. Western Illinois, not a team you would expect to knock off Ball State. Coppin State against Madison. LaSalle beat Wright State. I was actually on Wright State, so I was on the wrong side of that. Eastern Washington, we talked about it in line moves, right? Eastern Washington, a team that, to me, is clearly the best team in the Big Sky, a legitimate team that came on last year. And I had to throw this one extra one in there, Joe. I think congrats to you. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe so, Ralph. I believe this one went I believe it went well towards our way, did it not? New Mexico, we talked about it. Wisconsin, they took them down. It was a short number, but, I mean, heck, we said we gave them credit. I mean, listen, you've been all over them all year as well, so it wasn't as if you weren't calling it also.
Yeah, and again, Wisconsin, you've got some teams we talked about yesterday, just to paraphrase what we said. Early in the year, when you get some of these blue blood programs, you're paying a premium, a basket probably, because people don't know how good New Mexico is. I mentioned yesterday Jordan Lyles, their guard, an Ohio State transfer, who is just lighting it up. He's going to be Mountain West Player of the Year, close to it, and it's a team that's going to be reckoned to. Yep. The largest covers, and Canisius against Illinois Chicago covered by 34.5 points. I mean, that was an eye shocker. I had to check to make sure that was the right score.
We talked about him in the line movement. It was very strange that the money kept moving towards Canisius.
So, perhaps I didn't read the write-ups yet. I just got caught up handicapping today. Perhaps Illinois Chicago was missing a few people, and, there was an injury there that I wasn't aware of. And that happens when you have these mid-majors. And, Illinois Chicago doesn't get a lot of team coverage. If someone associated to the team or got a tweet or something that a couple guys were out, you bet Canisius. We'll see. Like I said, I'll get caught up with what happened on some of those games after this. And FS Austin against Duke, and Coppin State pulling the upset and covering by 25.5 points against James Madison.
Yeah, it was a good day all the way around there yesterday, guys. Some interesting stuff, and I mean, you can see some of these games that went under too. How about UCLA and Chaminade? We told you about. How about UAB and Lamar too? That was another very interesting one, Ralph. I don't think that quite lived up to the hype either.
Well, it's a 130 total. You see those numbers. And, I'm a fan of playing those low totals. It's proven they go under.
Yep.
Early in the year, Vegas doesn't adjust them enough. Now, full disclosure, but, there's a game that already went final before we were taping. And I had the under in the ODU and Loyola game, and it was under at halftime. It was trending under till about a minute and a half left. And a team gets down by 4 or 5. All of a sudden, you had 12 free throws in the last minute and a half, and you're going to not get those. So there always is that risk involved when you're playing those 130s that you either need the game to be tied, or a one basket game, or you need a 10-point lead when you hit that mark, to feel comfortable.
Now we got, of course, our trends and angles for the day, guys. We love to be able to provide those for you, kind of give you an idea. Some of the games on the slate, some of the trends, some of the angles associated with these games always help you make smarter decisions when it comes to handicapping college hoops, Ralph. And what do you got on the board today?
Well, again, for those new viewers, we're just giving you some situations where teams have succeeded. I'm not saying play this game because of this trend or this angle, but note how they've done, see if it continues to carry over this year, and then perhaps use it to your advantage. We're going to talk about this team a little later, but Oregon right now on a 15-1 ATS run. We know what they did last year in the tournament. They haven't let off their foot off the gas one iota. 15-1. Samford has been an over team. Samford is one of those teams that has some pace, and when they go out on the road, this is long-term, Joe. This is 3-some years now. 37-17 to the over.
Wow.
And if you want to know what they've done more recently, they're 17-6 to the over their last 23 games. They are at South Dakota State. Denver is a team that has struggled away from home. They've gone 3-14 against the spread their last 17 games away from the Mile High City. They are at Santa Clara. Santa Clara is a team that I like, but they burned me last week. They were playing Portland, and they had a 28-point lead laying 14 and got outscored 15-1 down the stretch. So I'm a little bitter at Santa Clara. And then finally, Georgia State's playing Charlotte. They've gone 12-2 against the spread their last 14 games.
Interesting. And as we take a look here, guys, and again, nothing, it's not written in stone. That's not the end-all be-all. It's just it's a good starting point for you when you start taking a look at some of these games. Over 50 on the board here today. Began at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Be going all the way here tonight, Ralph. And, we usually like to take a look at some of the movers, the shakers in the market here for some of these games on the board. And some of the games that are a little bit later, and I know a couple of the marquee games that we will focus on, I find some of these games to be very interesting, Ralph, and I'm going to give one here. It's going to tip off about 4 p.m. this afternoon, but I find it fascinating. You talk about low totals. Well, does it get any lower than 106.5? But the interesting part about, and there's usually only one or two teams we're talking about when we say 106 or 107 as totals, and it's Virginia taking on Maine. But, Ralph, the damn line is minus 29. Like, it's minus 29, and the total is 106. How do you, for somebody that might just be getting into handicapping college basketball, how do you approach when you see that?
Well, is it much different than Ohio State laying 53 at Rutgers and a total of 58?
That's so true.
I am looking right now, Joe. My college database goes back to 2007, and
you'd be hard pressed to find that.
Totals under 112 have gone over 54% of the time.
Wow.
Now, totals under 130, another low number, they've gone under. But the very, very low totals, let me go under 110.
Oh, I can't.
Totals under 110 have gone 44 and 30. So there's only been 74. I mean, in 12 years, you don't have much of a sample size.
Wow.
And a lot of them,
Wow. That's all I'm saying is wow.
There were like 4 of them were Wyomings that went over. Wyoming, San Diego State. Boy, there have been none.
Wow.
You know what? 2015 was the last time there were totals this low.
Mm-hmm.
NC Central and Akron back on November the 15th had a total of 107.5. That was 57-47.
Wow.
And then Virginia, Vermont on the 19th of November, that total was 109. That was 61-55. That went over by 109. That went over by like 10 points. So,
wow.
Well, let me just go here now. I'm going to just take up one more second.
Go ahead, take it. I mean, look, because I'm shocked. I'm blown away that there's even that many.
I'm putting in now if the team is Virginia and the total's this low. So Virginia.
Okay.
I did something wrong.
And you got to think Virginia's probably associated with it.
Yeah, well, like I said, the Wyoming surprised me. Yeah, I did something wrong here, and I'm not getting it to work, and we don't want to keep the people up live. I'll try to figure out in the next segment. But, all right, so we've seen some of the biggest tell us about some of the biggest line moves then. We see the crazy lines, but tell us the games that have moved the most since the openers were posted.
Some very interesting matchups here tonight, Ralph, that are seeing, number one, some tickets moving, and also it's we talked about them. 7:30 tonight, for instance. How about New Mexico State, George Mason? We are starting to see this. A whole lot of money, and Ralph, it's what stood out to me here is it's starting to get a number. It's getting some volume. It's the amount of tickets are getting up there. But you could not get a more 50-50 split here, Ralph, if you tried as far as the betting goes. And we've talked about both of these teams. The number opened up at 5.5 for New Mexico State. And it stays there. It has not moved, and yet we're starting to see a lot of volume. And usually we see one side or the other getting at least a fair share, but it's pretty even down the middle, Ralph. And that's an interesting game here tonight because both of these teams come into this matchup actually having played pretty well.
Well, we talked about the Aggies a few times, and they they had some issues with their guards early, and those guys are getting healthy, and they're starting to play they want. I did look since Virginia, since the 2015 season, so 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 5 seasons, when Virginia has had a total of under 120, they have gone 10 and 13. So they still have trended under.
Right.
And when you look at the very lowest, the 106 is the lowest. The 109 against Vermont was the other lowest. And going back to against the Georgia Tech team, which plays great defense, 112 was the lowest West Virginia total. So we are in uncharted territory, no question.
Yeah, never seen it. Laying 29, guys. That's Virginia here today. Laying 29, total of 106, and it's kind of staying there. It's not moving one way or the other. How about this one, Ralph? 5 o'clock this afternoon, Eastern time, a game I'm looking forward to. Dayton and Kansas, not one of the marquee matchups that we're going to talk about here, guys, but a championship matchup nonetheless here, Ralph. This game it's really starting to be one of the biggest bet games on the board, 5 o'clock. It opened up, get a load of this, Kansas laying 5. I'm seeing 3.5's a lot here, Ralph, as the money continues to come in on Dayton. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a Flyers fan. I love the way they're playing, and Kansas is again a number high-rated team because of what they've done. But this Dayton squad, started with 3 nobodies, took care of Georgia, beating them by 19. Again, Georgia's a one-dimensional team, though. Georgia was not a good team. I think they only won 11 games last year. So while there's more expected of them this year because of their signing and their superstar, they're still not. But, they're beating a Virginia Tech team that knocked off a pretty good team the game before. So I like what Anthony Grant's doing. They have an elite offense. They shoot the ball very well. And, you got a guy who blocks shots in Obi Tobin. We'll talk about that more in a little bit.
Yep.
Joe, I did look at games where the line was over 25 and the total was 120 or less.
Go ahead.
So since 2015, Virginia in 2016 played Robert Morris. They were laying 31.5 with a total of 114.
Wow.
And they won that game 79-39. So they covered, but the game went over. Akron played South Carolina Spartanburg. The total, they laid 30.5 with a total of 16.
Okay.
They won. They scored 76 points, 76-45. So they won and it went over.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kansas State played Arkansas Pine Bluff this year. The total was 26.5. The line was 26.5 with a total of 119.5.
Wow. And
they failed to cover, only scoring 62, but therefore the game went over. So, I guess the correlation is, when you're laying 40, it's pretty tough to cover and go under.
It's really, you think? Yeah, just ask Ohio State and Rutgers. It's a little difficult in any sport there, Ralph. One more late game here, Ralph. 11:30 Eastern time tonight. Two teams that you and I have talked about a lot here this week. Byu Virginia Tech. Interesting enough here, Ralph, that about 35% of the bets coming in on BYU, while 66 on Va Tech. It's not even close with the money. I mean, almost 75% of the money coming in on BYU. Does that surprise you here, given what we've seen from Virginia Tech and the way they handled Michigan State earlier on in this tournament?
BYU and the Mormons have a big following in Hawaii where this game is. So, no, it doesn't surprise me.
Yep.
That's BYU travels to UNLV very well. And so I think a lot of money is just because of that association.
Yep. Now, it's going to be a hell of a game here tonight. A lot of them. We got two marquee matchups we'll get to, guys. Of course, we like to focus a little bit on some dogs that are on the card here tonight that we point you towards, something that we circled, Ralph and I. And, Ralph, what was the dog on the card tonight that you looked at?
I had a dog marked down and it changed on me. So I am looking elsewhere, and I'm going to go to you as I now try to find a dog because my dog's moved down where I can't give a 1-point dog because that's just damn chintzy.
Oh, no. Well, let me tell you, if you were going to do it, because I was going to go, let me see here. Would it be Wichita State you were looking at?
Yeah, it is.
That was it. Because that's exactly who I was looking at as well. You know what? It's kind of hard, and we just talked about it, but Ralph, it's kind of hard to. I mean, I get it. Kansas is Kansas, but you want to give me 3.5 here in this spot? I mean, would either of us be surprised? If Dayton ends up winning this game here and takes home the trophy in this tournament. I love Kansas. Don't get me wrong. They kind of beat up on BYU. I think this is a totally different fight. I get why Kansas is favorite, but let's be realistic here. This is about as live a dog as you're going to get tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go. Like an NFL cornerback, when you're handicapping college basketball and you're playing tournaments day in and day out, you need to have a short memory.
Right.
You can't say this team beat me. Oh, I'm going to try to go against them again and get beat again. So, hey, I'm going to do this. LaSalle beat me yesterday.
Yes.
They had a good game against Wright State. Now I think they're getting points against the South Alabama team.
Yep.
That Wright State's a better team, and this LaSalle team, you already beat Murray State. You only lost to Temple by 5.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Iona in overtime in the opener. So I'm going to go with them. They burned me. Ashley Howard has them playing well in his second season.
Right.
I like teams in their second season. The coach now has his, you had the entire season to work in your systems. You had the off season to help your systems and to get better. And that's where you see it in college basketball the most is the second year of coaching.
Yep.
And that's what Ashley Howard is in at LaSalle. So the team beat me. I give them respect, and I'm going to go with them today to pull the upset against South Alabama.
I love that. And, I'll throw one other one out, Ralph, that also came to me. How about Mississippi Penn State? It's a 5 p.m. start here. You guys will probably be seeing this. It's probably a couple of hours away there. Penn State seems to be getting a lot more love than Mississippi here. I mean, it's up to 2.5 points, but I happen to like the under in this game because I think these two teams play pretty good defense as well. Maybe Penn State's got the better 3-point game, but you like Mississippi's chance against Penn State?
Yeah, again, this is a game where what do we know from Penn State? Nothing.
Right.
You've played 5 teams. Georgetown was your best game, and that was a win.
Mm-hmm.
And that Georgetown team just played horrible. And it's hard to believe that Georgetown team that looked that bad then looked decent against Texas in the first half, just blew out Texas in the second half. So, it's what do you get from them? You don't know. But, as far as that's concerned, I don't know what to make of Penn State, so I have no problems with Mississippi. Kermit Davis is a coach that, to me, you're now in your second year. Again, what he did at Middle Tennessee was just incredible for all those years. To get to Mississippi, 20 wins last year and get him off to a 4-1 start. I actually give the coaching edge to Kermit Davis. And
the two teams that like to play defense, too, we should note. I mean, probably two of the better defenses in the country, Ralph. I think that's safe to say as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're not slow teams. There's some slow teams that you look at their numbers, and their numbers are good because the pace is so slow and they allow 60 points.
Right.
These two teams have a very fast pace. I mean, they're both top 100 pace, but they have better defenses than offenses, and they really get after the ball.
Yeah, Penn State, I believe 5 of their last 7 non-conference games to the under, and they're going up against a pretty damn good team, holding teams to 59 points per game, that being Mississippi. So interesting matchup there, Ralph. And, of course, we always look for some situational plays, some situational matchups, revenge-type games, whatever it may be. Was there a situational on the card here today that stuck out to you?
There is, and the people watching this right away are going to be able to get a play on it. The people watching it later tonight are not, but remember the situation because it makes a lot of sense. When both teams, when you're playing in these tournaments, when you have no rest, when both teams won as a dog in the previous game, it's been a solid play, 62.3% to the under. So both teams are off upsets. You're playing again with no rest. You're excited to be playing. Well, when you're excited, you have more energy. You're probably playing better defense. So that's Northern Colorado and Gardner-Webb, game 727, 728. It is a low total, 126, but the system says it, the pace says it, the defense says it. So that's what we're using as a situational spot for today.
All right, and of course, our key matchups we like to throw your way, guys, not because they are, number 1, 2, that kind of situation, but mostly because they are maybe some of the more unique matchups on the card here, and one of them happens to be my alma mater, Oklahoma State, at the Barclays Center there. They're going to be taking on Syracuse, and I find this to be a fascinating matchup here in the Barclays, kind of a neutral court, obviously, and I believe this tournament was the NIT season tip-off, opened up on Wednesday this week, Ralph, or opened up, I believe. Is tonight tonight is the opening night here for this one, so you got two teams here that can play defense. Let's be realistic. We know this with Syracuse, right? Syracuse is a team that can absolutely, that zone there, Boeheim been doing it 40 years, guys. But Oklahoma State they're in trouble. They're getting scholarships. We're reading about coaches. We're reading about everything except the team. I do know the team can play defense here, Ralph. What do you think of this game here tonight? Low total, 125.
Yeah, I think the difference is Yorani. I mean, when you have a 6'10" guy in the middle who can block shots like Oklahoma State, that really changes the dynamic. I mean, UCF was such a good team because of Bobo, and it's not, he's getting a lot of blocks, but it's not even getting the blocks. It's people changing their shots because he's there.
Right.
And that's the reason you look at it. So you have a player like that, and it really changes the way a team plays. And, on the flip side, you're playing the Syracuse zone, which they haven't seen before. The Cowboys haven't shot the ball well. They're shooting 35% from 2-point land, and that's just horrible. And from inside the paint. And so yeah, I agree that I do like the under as well. Syracuse obviously has that New York backing, and they used to always play in Madison Square Garden, and I would give a point or a point home edge to Syracuse. So to me, that's enough to give Syracuse the edge to win the game, being in New York City.
Yep.
But I agree that I certainly look to the under in this, because it takes a long time to learn how to break the Syracuse zone. And when you're seeing it for the first time like that,
yep,
it's difficult. I might even do this, Joe. I might even split my under bet and play first half under.
Damn straight. Yep.
And see how slow of a start they get off to.
Yeah, it's been one of the most profitable bets for a while with Boeheim, getting Syracuse in conference play in the Carrier Dome. First half unders have been very profitable over the years, guys. But, to the point, though, Oklahoma State is no slouch either, guys. They are holding opponents to 53.6 points per game. That's 9th in the country. You're going to have two very good defensive teams doing battle here at the Barclays Center tonight. Interesting game. And so is another team, another game a little bit later. We love this. We've talked about Oregon before. We've talked about Dana Altman kind of switching what they were last year from a ball to having a couple of big dudes there to now it's all about the guards with Oregon here. And this is an interesting matchup here tonight. What do you think about this game, Ralph? Because we both like Oregon. We both like the way that they have been trending and where they're going, although they're a little bit different than what they were last year.
Well, they are. This is the battle for Atlantis down in the Bahamas. There are 6 top 50 teams and 4 AP top 15 teams. So always one of the best. I normally don't play against a game where the best player on the court is on the opposite team. But Miles Powell, really had to do it by himself. And yeah, they're getting better. And Seton Hall is a team that I think is potential to get to a Final Four because they have defense, because of what they did last year. They went through the Big East tournament. They knocked off Villanova, Marquette later. They won a couple games, and then they needed that experience. And what happens? They lose to Wofford in the first round. Oops. So you learn from that, and now you're a better team because of it. But Oregon, to me, just has too much depth. And being here in Las Vegas, following the Rebels a couple years ago, we knew what Shakur Justin was. He was such a good player, and he transferred. So, his two choices were Oregon or Seton Hall. That's where he decided, because he was friends with Powell at Seton Hall, and he liked the Oregon system with Dana Altman. He went to Oregon, 6'7" guy, and he gives them some size up front. But you have an elite point guard in Peyton Pritchard. You have Dana Altman, who I think is one of the best coaches in college basketball. You have a team that's already knocked off Memphis and Houston. And, while they haven't played any top 20 teams, they've played every team as 125 or 130 or higher. So you've had to play that Boise style. You played that Memphis style. Mm-hmm. You played a bunch of different styles, and on those styles, you've learned from each of those. So You've knocked off Fresno, you knocked off Boise, you knocked off Memphis, you knocked off Arlington, and you knocked off Houston. A very impressive start to the season for me. Yep. I do like Oregon here.
Yeah, I can't. And I'll tell you another thing too, guys, that you may want to take a look at. Seton Hall's top 3 scorers are all shooting better than 42% from the floor. So, and we know how important it is that people seem to think that Miles Powell's a one-man show, but he does have some guys that can shoot around him as well. And I do believe Oregon leads the Pac-12 with more than 8 3-pointers made per game. So the number is 139. Wouldn't at all be surprised either if this game went to the over, Ralph, as well as Oregon. I think it'll be close. I think Oregon wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get ourselves maybe a bit of a little shootout here.
Well, we know that, the 3-point game is the new king in college basketball. Yep. Here's 2 numbers for Oregon. Ooh. They're number 4 in the country in 3-point percentage made. They're number 2 in the country in three-point defense.
Yeah, golf something going to give.
Pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good. All right, so some great games on the card here tonight. Of course, our best bets. We like to finish the show here, kind of tell you which of the games that we like the best. And, Ralph, I mean, which game you going with here? What's your best bet of the day?
One thing I will say for all our new viewers, when we are talking about the marquee matchups, those will always be nighttime games. So if you're watching later, you're always going to hear the marquee matchups. If there's early games, we'll knock those out and take the best nighttime games to talk about.
Yep.
I'm going back to the well, and I moaned and bitched a little bit about this earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again. It's Santa Clara. Santa Clara is a team that has all 5 starters back.
Mm-hmm.
Herb Sedlak is a coach who's been around forever. Arizona State. He's been in the MAC. He's a quality coach.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that I lost the top play on last week. They were up 28 with under 4 minutes to go, got outscored. But this is one of those mini 4-game tournaments that they're the host. They're clearly the best team on the board. They're one where you don't want to embarrass a tournament setting where you're not playing in the championship game in front of your home crowd. That's an added boost when you're handicapping these tournaments, and I think they do get it done tonight.
Love that. All right, and I'm going to go back to a well, too. They were a earlier money line dog this week that cashed for us against Michigan State. I like them again here tonight. The Virginia Tech Hokies going up against the BYU. Not a big dog, but I still like them in this spot here to take care of business. I think they're a more efficient team. They're a better three-pointing shooting team. They take care of the basketball better. I love what the new coach here, Mike Young, has done with this team. I like it. I get a better three-pointing shoot, a better defender from the three-point line. I like Virginia Tech. I think I'm going to be talking about them and backing them a lot in these types of situations throughout the year here. Give me them to take care of business against BYU tonight, too. That's 11:30 p.m. Eastern.
And you're going against another first-year head coach at his team. So, while it may be difficult in the November setting to be playing these back-to-back-to-back games and know how you can work your kids, you're not at a disadvantage with BYU having a first-year head coach as well.
Yeah, they don't crash the boards enough. They don't get to the line enough. I think it's a better matchup for Virginia Tech here. So those are our best bets. And, of course, guys, want to remind you, like we told you early on, if you head over to wagertalk.com, Ralph had mentioned it Thursday through Monday, right? Tomorrow, guys, Thanksgiving right through Monday, $9. Packages, $9. All you have to do is get to wagertalk.com or sportsmemo.com. Everything $9 from Thanksgiving through Monday. Take advantage of it. And, of course, Ralph, your plays will be available there all weekend long. You'll be ready to rock and roll, and not just in college hoops, but everything you got will be listed and ready and loaded.
Hey, Joe, we going to do this tomorrow on Thanksgiving?
Are we doing this tomorrow on Thursday? We don't have any games. Do we have any games tomorrow?
Oh, yeah, there's 18 games tomorrow. It's 18. Your call. You got time tomorrow morning or not?
Yeah, we're probably doing it. Because I got to do a football preview show anyway, so absolutely. I'll coordinate and let's do it. We'll cut one up tomorrow.
All right, well, let's do this. So same time for our guys that watch us every day. If you want to watch it, there's only 2 early games, so when we come on, we'll have some decent games. And the second round of the battle for Atlantis will be some great matchups as well. So, awesome. All right, we'll do it Thanksgiving morning.
We're going to do it. Gobble, gobble. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Come back and see us again tomorrow. We'll make it a profitable college basketball day. Ralph, good luck, my man. Enjoy tonight. We'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks, Joe. Talk to you tomorrow.
You got it.